See it played, Donau Front. This was the issue game in Strategy and Tactics number 131. This is, the subtitle is Ardennes of the 90s, the Bavarian option in the next war. So the one scenario that comes with it has that name, Ardennes of the 90s, right there. And what we have here are a good number of West German units with some French, some Canadians. I think those three main nationalities against Czechs and Soviets. Czechs and Soviets. We'll take a look at the map to take a look at the counters right away, but just for bearing, looking this way, we're looking at the Czech border. Here's the Czech border here. There's a little bit of Austria down here. As a matter of fact, that's Passau right there. So you go across that bridge over that river way up there in the corner, and that's Austria on the far side. Other main landmarks, we have Cham right here, and this is the Donau. This is the Donau here. It goes down, continues on. Okay. So again, this is the West German Czech border here. These gray units are West German cavalry units, a cavalry screen. Each of them are a company. We'll take a closer look at those units in just a minute, but I think probably more eye-catching is the map. So we'll take a look at this terrain. Of what stands out are all of these little black diamonds that are on hex sides. We have a bunch of red dots. I guess those are the main ones, but we'll look at all the terrain, consider all the terrain right now. So the three main, I guess, background colors, you could say are the white, the green, and the brown. So the white is just flat terrain, the green is broken, and the brown is rough. Then you have obviously your woods, easily distinguishable. I don't see any high water terrain in the vicinity here. Then we have marsh, which is pretty distinguishable as well. Rivers, obviously, bridges. These are roads, obviously, but there are also autobahns. Just pulling off of the border area, the heavy red lines are the autobahn. The urban areas surprisingly are in red, but it sure makes them stand out. And the red dots are actually towns. Again, I thought that was a really strange way to do it, but I was thinking maybe the only benefit maybe is that maybe when your units are in the hex, maybe you can still kind of see the red dot to the side maybe. Other than that, I'm not sure why, the why behind that graphic design decision. And most unusual, although I do think it's actually a pretty brilliant way to do it, So all these black diamonds on the hex sides, they're called access hex sides. And if I remember correctly, they are meant to represent the secondary road net, which is pretty interesting. So if the secondary road net was laid over this, it would be an eyesore with so many lines going this way and that. So when you have the access hex side here, here, and here, that means that there's a secondary road net going there. So in an area like this, the secondary road net could get really, really busy. I do think if this were redone in the future, I think a better graphic could be used to show the access hex sides, but it is still a really interesting design idea. Okay, so access hex sides, because it's not obvious, the black diamonds on the hex sides are the access hex sides, and the red dots are towns. So all of the smaller towns in the countryside, and again, the urban is red. Those are the main terrain features. Okay, so here's a close-up of a unit here, standard NATO graphic for armored cavalry. The unit size, again, NATO symbols used, but it's to the right of the unit type symbol, not on the top. So this is a company. On the top, across the top, is the unit designation, and I think I know why. Well, at least I can see why things were done the way they were. Unit designation, if I remember correctly, is fairly important, and it is nice that the highest unit, the highest parent unit, is consistently shown in a larger and bold typeface. So 444, this should be the 4th company of the 4th battalion. 4th company, 4th battalion, 4th. Okay, maybe it's a squadron. I'm not sure what the West Germans used at this point for their cavalry, but anyways, it should be the 4th company, 4th battalion or squadron of the 4th Panzer Grenadier Division, I believe. But in any case, it's lower to higher formation. So that's the unit identification. And interestingly enough, the numbers at the bottom are not combat and movement, but instead it's a mobile combat strength on the left and close combat strength on the right. So for this cavalry company, it has a 2 mobile combat strength and a 1 close combat strength. Again, that's an interesting little design feature. It's going to make, if I remember correctly, it's going to make players use their unit types, and there's the full range here as you would expect. So we have light infantry to mech infantry, all the way to heavy self-propelled artillery and rocket units, long-range rocket units. So, and there's also of note, there's rotary wing assets. So we have attack helicopter units as well. So those are the units. The backs, by the way, all the backs have an arrow like that. So the backs are not reduced strength. So now for our artillery type unit. Again, unit designation on the top again, NATO symbol, and this is a rocket battalion. This is a combat strength of 9 out to a range of 10 hexes, and a special defense strength in parentheses, meaning this unit would defend with this strength when defending against counter battery fire or when defending by itself in a hex without the presence of a friendly non-artillery unit. Oh, I'll go ahead and talk about unit facing. So unusually, this game has unit facing. All these units are faced a hex spine, facing a hex spine, and that is the way that it's played. So front 2 hexes are front, 2 flank hexes, and 2 rear hexes. Ground and rotary wing units can only attack to their front. Artillery, of course, as you would expect, can fire in any direction. There's not a lot to it. If I remember correctly, it's not like you're spending detailed or making detailed movement point expenditures as you go, like a Napoleonic unit or something. It's not like that. It's more like when you're done moving, you'll want to pay attention to unit facing, or which direction your units are facing, because facing cannot be changed at other times. So at the end of a unit's movement or retreat or advance after combat, you will set its direction or facing. So it's not so surprising. The importance of facing is, one, that's where, the direction that most of your units are going to be able to attack, and there are penalties for being attacked in the flank and rear in many cases. So more West German units on the map now. In this urban area, we've got a mechanized infantry unit, battalion, strength 3-4. So again, 3 mobile combat strength, 4 close combat strength, and with it in the same hex we have this self-propelled artillery battalion, combat strength of 2, range of 6, special defense value of 2. So let's talk about stacking. So stacking, there are stacking limits. Stacking limits apply at the end of all movement, retreats, or advances after combat. The NATO player may stack a total of 2 ground and or artillery type units in a single hex. So this is an example. The packed player may stack a total equal to 1 ground unit of regimental size plus 1 artillery type unit, or alternatively 2 artillery type units in a single hex. All units of the stack must be oriented in exactly the same direction. This for the packed player. So for stacking purposes, 3 packed battalions equals 1 regiment. Okay, just to clarify, for the NATO player can have 2 units up to its stacking limit in the hex, and have 2 units facing 2 different directions. And on top of this, the NATO player only can form a hedgehog by having 2 units back to back like that, facing in opposite directions, in which case they have no flank or rear hex sides. Any attack against that stack in that hex is considered against its front. However, units in a hedgehog like this do not exert zones of control. The key points about zones of control is that generally your ground units are only exerting a zone of control into their front 2 hexes, 2 adjacent hexes. Importantly, well, as you would imagine, that does not include artillery type units, but of particular note, that does not include units in light mode. There is a kind of interesting rule mechanic whereby certain infantry units can go into light mode. It's not well, in my experience, it hasn't been hugely common, but it is there. And so when those units are in light mode, Huh. Okay. Well, we'll get to that when we have a unit go into light mode. Units entering a hex in an enemy ZOC must stop. Move no further that phase. Not counting, of course, helicopter type units. This is important. All unit types except helicopter types and cavalry. So the cavalry screen. So except for helicopter units and cavalry, units pay an extra movement point to enter an enemy-controlled hex. Units which begin a movement phase in an enemy-controlled hex must attempt disengagement to do so. Okay. This is important. There's a disengagement procedure. So there's a disengagement table. You're rolling single 6-sided die. It's based on the terrain of the hex the unit's trying to disengage from. The more open, as you would imagine, the harder it is to disengage. There are modifiers, die roll modifiers, for such things as night, or if the disengaging unit is a cavalry or helicopter type unit. And then you can also use airstrike points to help disengage, which makes sense.